ज्ञानम अदाच्युकः तद इदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि नः श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदच्छुकः तद इदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि नः श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदाच्छुकः तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदाच्युकः तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदाच्युकः तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदाच्युकः। माताजी, तदिदं श्रोतुमिच्छामो गदितुं यदि मन्यसे ब्रूहि न श्रद्धानानां यस्य ज्ञानम् अदाच्युकः। tat, all, idam, this, shrotum, to hear, ichhamaha, all willing, gaditum, to narrate, yadi, if, manyase, you think, bruhi, please speak, naha, we, shraddhadhananam, who are very much respectful, yasya, whose, jnanam, transcendental knowledge, adat, delivered, shukaha, Shri Shukadeva Goswami. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda. We all respectfully want to hear about him, Maharaj Parikshit, to whom Shukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge. Please speak on this matter. Purport: Shukadeva Goswami imparted transcendental knowledge to Maharaj Parikshit during the remaining 7 days of his life. And Maharaj Parikshit heard him properly, just like an ardent student. The effect of such a bona fide hearing and chanting of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was equally shared by both the hearer and the chanter. Both of them were benefited. Out of the 9 different transcendental means of devotional service to the Lord prescribed in the Bhagavatam, either all of them or some of them or even one of them are equally beneficial if properly discharged. Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami were serious performers of the first 2 items, important items, namely the process of chanting and the process of hearing. And therefore, both of them were successful in their laudable attempt. Transcendental realization is attained by such serious hearing and chanting and not otherwise. There is a type of spiritual master and disciple much advertised in this age of Kali. It is said that the master injects spiritual force into the disciple by an electric current generated by the master, and the disciple begins to feel the shock. He becomes unconscious, and the master weeps for his exhausting his store of so-called spiritual assets. Such bogus advertisement is going on in this age, and the poor common man is becoming the victim of such advertisement. We do not find such folk tales in the dealings of Shukadeva Goswami and his great disciple Maharaj Parikshit. The sage recited Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in devotion, and the great king heard him properly. The king did not feel any shock of electric current from the master, nor did he become unconscious while receiving knowledge from the master. One should not, therefore, become a victim of these unauthorized advertisements made by some bogus representative of Vedic knowledge. The sages of Naimisharanya were very respectful in hearing about Maharaj Parikshit because of his receiving knowledge from Shukdev Goswami by means of ardent hearing. Ardent hearing from the bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge, and there is no need for medical performances or occult mysticism for miraculous effects. The process is simple, but only the sincere party can achieve the desired result. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुर्वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we are reading this very, very beautiful shloka from first canto, 12th chapter, third shloka of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So here what is happening is when Shaunakadi rishis had met Shukdev Goswami, when Shaunakadi rishis had met Suta Goswami, that time they had asked specifically in the very first canto, first few shlokas, they were asking about Maharaj Parikshit. And they were very surprised that how such a great noble king can give up everything and be ready to give his life. How did that happen? And all that kind of thing. Because great souls, they don't live for themselves. Great souls live for the interest of others. Therefore, this was a surprising matter. That why he is so self-centered that he is wanting to commit suicide. Because committing suicide is an aspect of self-centeredness. So that was surprising. Because great souls, they don't live for themselves, they live for others. So what happened because of which he had to do that? And then, once our Suta Goswami started speaking, he went into all the other descriptions also, which built up to this whole thing. And therefore, he talked about Ashwathama killing the 5 sons of Pandavas. Then he talked about Arjuna catching Ashwathama and that conflict resolution between Draupadi and Bhima. And then he talked about passing away of Bhishma Dev. And then he talked about Krishna leaving for Dwarka, and then Kunti Maharani's prayers, and all that happened. And then he also talked about the Krishna in Dwarka and how Dwarka Vasis received Krishna. And then finally, they are coming back to the original topic. So not that they were bored by hearing that, they were completely absorbed in hearing that. Prabhupada says in the first shloka, but then they wanted to also come back to the original topic. So therefore now Shaunakadi rishis are telling Suta Goswami that, let us tad idam shlotem ichhamo. So now saying, we want to hear about Maharaj Parikshit, let's come back to that original topic. They are saying that. So they are expressing their desire to hear about somebody who perfected hearing, like that. So Parikshit Maharaj is an acharya of hearing. He's an acharya of Shravanam. And Shaunakadi rishis, they are saying that, since he heard so well, therefore we want to hear about him. What an amazing thing. So Krishna Katha does not just mean to hear about Krishna. Krishna Katha also means to hear about Krishna's devotees. So by Krishna, about Krishna, by Krishna's devotees, about Krishna's devotees. All these four things is Krishna Katha. All these four comes in the Krishna Katha. So Prabhupada writes here some very, very beautiful sentences, as always. Prabhupada is saying, Maharaj Parikshit heard him properly, just like an ardent student. Number one, ardent student means very diligent, very sincere, very serious, very eager, very enthusiastic. Ardent means all of that. Ardent hearing. And then he says that the benefit was shared by both hearer and chanter. That's the second point he makes in this purport. The third point he makes is that, of course, out of the 9 processes, some of them, all of them, or even one of them are equally beneficial if properly discharged. That's the third point he makes. The fourth point he makes is, where is that only? This one. Transcendental realization is attained by such serious hearing and chanting and not otherwise. Prabhupada is also telling not otherwise. And that's just as like Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. No other way, no other way. Like that he's telling. And then he's talking about some bogus misconceptions and understanding. Actually, many times people have very fancy understanding of spirituality. They think that it is something mystical. It has to be something mysterious. कुछ तो एकदम ऐसा अजीब सा होना चाहिए. नॉर्मल हो रहा है क्या मतलब मजा नहीं आया. थोड़ा कोई सीट से ऊपर उठना चाहिए, कुछ ऐसा गिरना चाहिए. That's what Prabhupada is telling here. And then Prabhupada in a very nicely way, मतलब उसको मार रहे हैं प्यार से, प्रेम से. बता रहे हैं कि such bogus things are not seen. Such folk tales. Like we do not find such folk tales in the dealings of Shukdev Goswami and his great disciple Parikshit. कोई current नहीं आया, वो unconscious भी नहीं हुए. So Krishna consciousness actually is not about miracles. That's a very important thing to understand, because actually miracle is happening on a day-to-day basis already. पर हम लोग क्या है जो normally हो रहा है day-to-day में उसको miracle नहीं समझते. See, even the fact that we are living is actually a miracle in this world, because anything can go wrong. The fact that we are surviving is a miracle. I think Newton or Einstein said something like this, that there are 2 ways to live life, 2 ways to see life. One is that nothing is a miracle, and the other is everything is a miracle. The fact that from the same ground, water, mud, earth, mango is coming, and from same ground, water, earth, neem or babool is coming, it is also a miracle only. The fact that, we are breathing in and so many things, all the combustion reactions and, all that is happening. My daughter was asking, Papa, do you know the difference between breathing and respiration? So biology, if you remember, we read breathing is a physical act of inhaling and exhaling, and respiration is a chemical change going on inside. Oxidation, combustion is happening once oxygen goes in. So all that is happening. That's also a miracle only. So therefore, moment to moment, there is a miracle, and we don't have to wait for a miracle to happen to perceive Krishna. It is said that when miracles happen, even atheists will believe in Krishna. So what is the greatness of a devotee? Greatness of a devotee is that he is able to perceive Krishna even in ordinary day-to-day life. That is a devotee. That is Krishna consciousness. It is not International Society for Krishna Consciousness in miracles. In miracles, everybody will become God conscious. But it is Krishna consciousness just like that. That means on a day-to-day basis, when we are going to office, we are Krishna conscious. We are able to perceive Krishna. So as I came across this nice acronym TIME, time. I don't want to get distracted there, but we should be able to perceive Krishna not only in, miracles to anybody can perceive, but in temple, in individuals, in material nature, and in day-to-day events. TIME, time. That is Krishna consciousness. Begins with perceiving Krishna in temple. At least it has to begin there. Then it goes on to perceiving Krishna in individuals. That, oh, Krishna is not only here, but he's also in all the individuals. And then material nature. Water, Himalayas, mountains, Krishna says, chapter 9, 10, all that. And then events. Events in our life. My boss fired me from office. Oh, I have to see hands of Krishna. But doesn't mean that we blame Krishna or we don't take responsibility and we offload the responsibility to Krishna. That is not the meaning. There is a nice lecture by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu which talks about seeing hands of Krishna in the right way. And there's a very, very nice discussion happening there. But that's not the topic of today here. So that's another point Prabhupada makes. And then again he says that the sages of Naimisharanya, Shaunakadi rishis, why they were so eager to hear about Parikshit? Because he perfected his life by ardent hearing. And then again he says, ardent hearing from bona fide master is the only way to receive transcendental knowledge, and there is no need for medical performances or occultistics. So there's an amazing thing which again is glorifying the importance of hearing. So hearing is such an important process in our spiritual life. Just like the ears are the only senses which are always awake. So let's say, for example, somebody is sleeping. How do we wake him up? We don't wake him up by showing him some pictures. Eyes are closed. We don't wake him up by doing like this also, because if somebody is really, really asleep, you will see that just by this also nothing will happen. But they put alarm clock, right? And alarm, what principle alarm clock works on? Sound principle. Alarm clock does not start beating the person. It creates sound. And then with sound, somebody wakes up, so therefore hearing is such an important process. And Prabhupada, in that Kapil Dev section which we were discussing last Sunday, Prabhupada writes that how the beginning of this creation, material manifestation, has happened through sound. The beginning of material manifestation has happened through sound, and the same sound, in fact he says a particular sound can actually finish our material entanglement. What is that particular sound? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So this hearing is such an important process that we should see. Actually, it is a core of our spiritual life. If we have to become Krishna conscious, or if we have to have a spiritually surcharged environment, spiritually surcharged atmosphere, then spiritual sound vibration is the most important aspect. जो spiritual sound vibration है, वो बहुत important aspect है उसका. Otherwise, without that, the atmosphere is not spiritual. So, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, Chara Veda Dadhi Bhagavata Navnita Mathilena Shuka Khayena Parikshita. He's telling Char Veda Dadhi. If the 4 Vedas are like curd and Bhagavata Navanita, Bhagavatam is like the butter. When you churn curd, the essence of curd, butter comes out. Chara Veda Dadhi Bhagavata Navanita Mathilena Shuka. Shukdev Goswami is churning, and Khayena Parikshita. Similar to that Dogda Gopal Nandana, that shloka, So that's the glory of Parikshit Maharaj. So he is glorified as a serious hearer. We all have heard that story of those 4 dolls. 4 dolls to describe the different kinds of hearing, right? So once in a village there was a fair. वो मेला वेला लगता है ना, fair. तो वहां पे one vendor was selling dolls. तो एक पर्सन आया बोलने के, अरे भाई ये डॉल अच्छी लग रही है, आई वांट टू टेक इट फॉर माय चिल्ड्रन. सो कितने की है? तो दिस वेंडर सेड ये डॉल 100 रुपए की है. तो देन दिस पर्सन आस्क्ड, अच्छा ये वाली? बोलता ये वाली 200 रुपए की है, 200 रुपीज. ये वाली 300 रुपए की, और ये वाली 400 रुपए की. ये बोलता क्या चीटिंग चल रहा है? ऑल 4 डॉल्स वर लुकिंग एग्जैक्टली द सेम. All the 4 dolls were looking exactly the same, and still one was 100 rupees, one was 200, one was 300, one was 400. So this person said, क्या चीटिंग चल रहा है? बोला नहीं सर, चीटिंग नहीं चल रहा है. अभी मैं आपको बताता हूँ क्या डिफरेंस है. तो जो पहली डॉल थी, उसने बोला एक काम करिए सर, वो तिनका होता है ना, वो वन स्ट्रॉ, राइट? तो बोला यू टेक दैट स्ट्रॉ एंड पुट इट इन द 1 ear ऑफ द फर्स्ट डॉल. तो डाला उसने, तो इधर से निकल गया पहले डॉल का. तो इसने बोला अच्छा आप दूसरे में डालिए. तो दूसरे में डाला इधर से, तो पता है क्या हुआ? इधर से निकल गया. दूसरी में इधर से डाला. यू अंडरस्टैंड ना व्हाट्स हैपनिंग? देयर आर होल्स इन द ईयर्स एंड होल्स इन द माउथ एंड एवरीथिंग, एंड देन ही इज पुटिंग द स्ट्रॉ हियर एंड इट्स कमिंग आउट लाइक दिस इन द सेकंड डॉल, 200 रुपीस डॉल. देन शी सेड, अब थर्ड वाले में डाल के देखिए. तो थर्ड वाले में डाला तो ऐसा चला गया. बोला फोर्थ वाले में डालिए 400 रुपए वाला, उसमें ऐसा डाला तो ऐसे चला गया. These are the 4 dolls. अब ये बोला आप थोड़ा पर्पट भी बताइए इसका, प्लीज एक्सप्लेन ऑल्सो. तो व्हाई दिस इज 100, व्हाई दिस इज 400? तो शी सेड देखिए देयर आर डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ हियरर्स. कुछ होते हैं जो इधर से सुनते हैं, इधर से निकल जाता है, वो सबसे खराब है, सबसे बेकार टाइप का हियरिंग है वो. इधर से सुना, इधर से निकल गया, खत्म. बाकी प्रसाद वसाद खाए, चल दिए घर. तो 100 रुपए की डॉल है. इसलिए इस्कॉन का गलत मतलब क्या निकलता है? इस कान से उस कान तक इस्कॉन. इस्कॉन का बहुत सारा मैंने फुल फॉर्म सुना. एक है is KC on. So anytime we see ISKCON written, we should say is KC on. We should ask ourselves, is my KC on? बाकी सब चल रहा है और KC ही नहीं है, कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस ही नहीं है. दूसरा ये इस कान से उस कान तक. So this is the first doll. Second doll क्या थी? What was the second doll? किधर गया था? सुना और बोल दिया. तो एक इनसिंसियर प्रीचर या एक हिपोक्रेटिक प्रीचर, जिसको केवल फॉलोअर्स गैदर करने हैं, और अपना इंप्रेशन क्रिएट करना है. वो क्या कर रहा है? सुन रहा है, पढ़ रहा है, नोट्स बना रहा है और बोल रहा है. सुन रहा है बोल रहा है, सुन रहा है बोल रहा है, अंदर कुछ नहीं जा रहा है, अप्लाई कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, दैट्स द सेकंड 200 रुपीज। थर्ड क्या था, किधर गया था, ऊपर दिमाग में, कम से कम सुन के समझ रहा है, ब्रेन में जा रहा है, समझ रहा है, दे आर ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट्स हैपनिंग, ओ दिस इज हाउ लाइफ इज। एक्चुअली एट द लेवल ऑफ साधना, we connect with Krishna through our intelligence. So there is no harm in using our intelligence. We connect at the level of sadhaka, we connect with Krishna through our intelligence. Because Guru Sadhu Shastra tell us do this, don't do this, and we are convinced by our intelligence that yes, in doing so, मेरा benefit है। तो इंटेलिजेंस में गया, तो बेटर डॉल है, थर्ड डॉल है। पर बेस्ट क्या है, खाली ब्रेन तक जाए, हार्ट में जाए, दैट इज द बेस्ट। तो इसलिए वो 400 रुपए की डॉल थी। सो दीज आर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ हियरिंग, राइट। एंड सो देयरफॉर वी शुड, ऑफ कोर्स वी शुड अंडरस्टैंड दैट हमारा हार्ट में भी जाए, ब्रेन में भी जाए, और बाहर से भी निकले, बिकॉज प्रीचिंग इज द एसेंस, राइट। ऑल थ्री। तो 200 प्लस 300 प्लस 400, 900 रुपए का काम करिए, है ना, लाइक दैट। So that is the best. So you see now in Parikshit Maharaj's life, we see why he is Acharya of hearing, because he is demonstrating for 7 days and 7 nights, whatever, continuously he heard 24/7. Oh, actually, this is literally 24/7. 24/7 यहीं से आया होगा भागवतम से, परीक्षित महाराज से, right? So you see some characteristics of how he is hearing. First of all, he was determined to hear. वो बोला था आने दो वो तक्षक है या जो भी मैजिकल सर्पेंट है, there is the shloka 119:15. In 119:15 he says, let the takshak or whoever is that mystical thing come and bite me, but I want to only hear about Krishna Katha. So he is determined to hear. That is one thing we see. दूसरा, he is praiseful. So we are understanding some characteristics of good hearer. दूसरा, he is praiseful. He is glorifying the speaker, and he is appreciating the speaker. That, oh, you know so much, you know all this, and you have understood, you have realized, the transcendental knowledge, and you know about Krishna, please share with us. Third, he is inquisitive. This is very important. Parikshit Maharaj is inquisitive. You will see that even though he is fasting, and even though he is about to die, he is paying attention to, actually paying attention to details is different. That is attentive. He is inquisitive. So there are two things, inquisitiveness and attentiveness. How he is inquisitive? In one Manvantara, I think in 8th canto, when Gajendra pastime is being described, he's saying, before that, he's saying, how is it that an elephant received the mercy of the Lord? So he is inquisitive. How is it that the elephant received the mercy of the Lord? Right? He's inquisitive about it. So he is asking questions to know more and get into details. Similarly, when this thing happened, when Brahma Vimohan Leela happened, he said, how is it that parents are loving somebody else's children more? Not Brahma Vimohan Leela, in general also, in Krishna Vrindavan Leela, in general. The parents used to love Krishna more than their own children. So Parikshit Maharaj said, how is it that they love the other child more than their own child? Because that is Krishna, like that. So he's inquisitive. So he's not just hearing and downloading information. He is getting into details and he wants to know more. How is it? How is it, like that? And then he's attentive. Attentive means what? Shukdev Goswami is trying to quickly go through certain things. He's saying, wait. ये ऐसा कैसे हुआ? Like, just like in Brahma Vimohan Leela, वो 1 साल के बाद, the children, they are telling their parents the story as if it has happened today only, but it has happened 1 year back, when they were Komara. But now they are Pavanda. वो 5 साल से 6 साल में आ गए वो. They are no longer Komara, they are Pavanda now. And now they are telling, अरे आपको पता है कल क्या हुआ? But they are just telling as if it has happened today, even though it has happened 1 year later. So Parikshit Maharaj was very attentive. 1 minute, ये क्या, थोड़ा go back. इसको जरा समझाइए, like that. He was very attentive in hearing. He was not tired of hearing. He's saying, please keep speaking more and more and more. Not that, chalo, abhi time ho gaya, chalo chalte hain. He's not tired of hearing. He's absorbed in hearing. In our case, what happens? Let's say there is a big problem. Let's say now in my office, there is a big problem in my office. Therefore, I'm a little disoriented. I'm not Parikshit Maharaj. So, then, though we may be hearing or speaking Bhagavatam, somewhere kahin na kahin ek background mein kuch to aur chal raha hai. There is some problem, right? That means problem, because we are so neophyte in Krishna consciousness right now, that problems are actually taking us away from Krishna. Though we know that actually problems are to take us closer to Krishna. Just see where we are, इसलिए दिल्ली दूर है. We are, therefore goal is out of reach, but should never be out of sight. Once, our Krishna Smaran Prabhu had come to Pune, and there was a question answer session in Mayapur base. And somebody was telling, Prabhuji, Queen Kunti is praying for calamities. So can we also pray for calamities so that we become more Krishna conscious? Krishna's Prabhu said, no, you don't try that. We are not at that level. Better to, pray for favorable things only, because if calamities come in our life, opposite reaction will happen. We'll actually give up. We'll give up. So we have to organically grow. We cannot imitate very, very advanced platform. But in case of Parikshit Maharaj, we see he is about to die in 7 days. इससे बड़ा problem क्या होगा? There cannot be bigger problem than this. And yet he is able to completely focus, eagerness, determination, inquisitiveness, attentiveness, whatever we are discussing, he is able to do that. No, absolutely no other thought. So he was completely absorbed. He was hearing with full faith. This is also another important ingredient of hearing. Hearing with full faith. ये जो है ना, यही perfection of life है. ऐसा नहीं कि इसके बाद कुछ होगा. Just like in Japariphon notebook, Satswarup Maharaj writes. Many times people wonder what will happen after chanting. हम चैंटिंग करें, बिकॉज वी आर ऑल फ्रूटिव मेंटालिटी पीपल ना, हम कुछ भी करते हैं तो किसी चीज के लिए करते हैं. लेट्स से व्हेन वी आर ट्राइंग टू क्लीन द सेंटर, व्हाई आर वी क्लीनिंग इट? कि उसके बाद क्लीन हो जाएगा, करेक्ट? और व्हेन वी आर गोइंग टू ऑफिस, कि उसके बाद पैसा मिलेगा, व्हाटएवर. वी हैव अ रीजन टू डू एवरीथिंग एंड वी आर लुकिंग फॉर समथिंग हैपनिंग आफ्टर इट. सेम मेंटालिटी वी अप्लाई ऑन चैंटिंग. दैट अच्छा चैंटिंग करके क्या होगा वो बताइए. तो उसकी वजह से क्या होता है, चैंटिंग का टेंशन पे नहीं करते हैं, बिकॉज आवर फोकस इज इसके बाद क्या होगा. कुछ नहीं होगा, जो होना है अभी हो रहा है. So Satswarup Maharaj writes in that, nothing will happen after chanting. Whatever has to happen is happening right now. So better do that nicely. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Just a distraction, but Chaitanya Prabhu in one of his Japa talks or Japa articles writes a very nice point. Since our mind is so much used to fast work and always looking forward to some action, माइंड का टेंडेंसी क्या रहता है कि वो शांत नहीं बैठ सकता, वो हमेशा उसको एक्शन चाहिए, एक्शन चाहिए. सो इन अवर फास्ट लाइफ व्हेन वी सिट डाउन एंड चैंट, इट इज लाइक अ स्पीड ब्रेकर इन अवर फास्ट लाइफ. तो इसलिए माइंड डज नॉट कोऑपरेट विद अस, बिकॉज माइंड को लगता है यहाँ तो कोई एक्शन ही नहीं हो रहा है, पर माइंड कहाँ जाता है, एक्शन में तुरंत. सो माइंड इज नॉट विद अस व्हेन वी आर सिटिंग एंड चैंटिंग, बिकॉज वी आर परसीविंग चैंटिंग एज अ स्पीड ब्रेकर इन अवर लाइफ. एंड देयरफॉर इन टुडेज टाइम एंड वर्ल्ड व्हिच इज मोर infected with passion, to sit like this and chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is a most difficult thing, because the whole atmosphere is surcharged by passion. Everybody is like running around fast. और उसमें बोला रुको, और already life इतना fast है, इतना सारा problem, उसमें बोला रुको यहाँ बैठ के पहले chanting करो. So it's like a speed breaker, and therefore mind is not cooperating, because mind does not like speed breaker. Mind wants to go to action. So what is the formula? The formula is to tell the mind again and again, mind your mind. It's not that this is inaction. This is the greatest action. बस माइंड एक छोटा बच्चा है, उसको ऐसा बोल दिया तो ऐसा मान लेता है, ऐसा बोल दिया तो ऐसा मान लेता है. तो अगर हम अपने माइंड को ऐसा ट्रेन करें, और अगर हम अपना इंटेलेक्चुअली या व्हाटएवर वे, इफ वी अवर मेंटल मॉडल, इसको बोलते हैं मेंटल मॉडल टुवर्ड्स चैंटिंग शुड बी व्हाट? मेंटल मॉडल टुवर्ड्स चैंटिंग शुड नॉट बी इट्स लाइक अ स्पीड ब्रेकर इन माय अदरवाइज फास्ट पेस्ड लाइफ. मेंटल मॉडल टुवर्ड्स चैंटिंग शुड बी दैट दिस इज द ग्रेटेस्ट एक्शन. इन 24 आवर्स में 1000 तरह के काम करता हूं, उसमें से सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट काम क्या है? ये चैंटिंग. जब हम ऐसा सोचना शुरू कर देंगे, जब हम ऐसा मेंटल मॉडल बना लेंगे, तो हम देखेंगे अपने आप माइंड, क्योंकि माइंड को तो एक्शन ही चाहिए, और हमने माइंड को क्या सिखाया? दिस इज द ग्रेटेस्ट एक्शन. देन माइंड विल कोऑपरेट, एंड वी शुड चैंट विद दिस इंटेंशन एंड विद दिस फीलिंग दैट यस, व्हाटएवर हैज टू हैपन इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम राम. आई फाउंड दिस वन टिप टू improve my chanting the maximum. मतलब out of many tips, ये जो टिप है ना, ये मेरे को पर्सनली सबसे ज्यादा टच किया, बिकॉज नाउ आई जस्ट कैन नॉट चैंट विदाउट अटेंशन. चैंटिंग नहीं करूंगा उस समय, दैट इज अ डिफरेंट मैटर, बट आई कैन नॉट चैंट विदाउट अटेंशन. द प्रॉब्लम, व्हाई? बिकॉज then it's waste of time for me. Then of course it's not, even if without attention we are chanting, then also something is happening, right? But then the point is that we should see chanting as, yes, something nice is happening and something is happening on me. Cheto darpanam arjanam or mercy or whatever has to happen is happening right now. Why I went there? So Parikshit Maharaj had faith. Similarly, Bhagavatam hearing. I was hearing one lecture of Radha Govind Maharaj. Similarly in Bhagavatam hearing, one mental model could be that, okay, we are getting to know more about Krishna. And since we are getting to more about Krishna, we are developing our attraction to Krishna. And therefore it will help me become more Krishna conscious. That is correct. That is one mental model. But even if we are not understanding anything, the act of reading Bhagavatam itself is sadhana. You see what I'm trying to say? It's not just about knowledge. So Radha Maharaj clarified, it's there in one of the shlokas also in Bhagavatam, that when we are sitting down and reading Bhagavatam for whatever 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour in a day, this is sadhana. Not about, okay, what is happening as a result of it later. Are you able to again connect to what I was trying to say? This act itself is also sadhana. We should not try to worry about the results. Are Prabhuji, like many devotees ask me a question. Prabhuji, we are reading so much, hearing so much, but we are not able to retain. उसकी चिंता मत करिए आप. Results पे आप उसका वैसा वाला results मत देखिए कि इसके बाद कुछ होगा. When we are reading Bhagavatam, Lord is noticing. No? And two things happen. One is this is such a pure spiritual sound vibration that itself is clean, can clean us. Plus, Krishna becomes so happy that he also stands up, takes a scrubber and starts cleaning. मतलब double action हो रहा है. आप देखो. That shloka that Vidhuti, क्या है shloka? हाँ, वो shloka में this is mentioned that Krishna himself cleanses, which is itself purifying. Like that. So same thing we should apply for Bhagavatam, that when we are sitting and reading, and we should not worry about अच्छा हमको कितना retain हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है, वो अपने आप होगा. If we are sincerely trying to serve, this is what happens by mercy. Just like today when I was singing Tulsi Aarti, वो blank ही हो गया line. बोलने के बाद भी मेरे को याद नहीं आ रहा क्या line है. You know, सर्वस्य चाह मेरी सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर ज्ञानम अपोहनम च. This is a fact. This is a fact. You may have sung something millions of times, but if for whatever divine reason, remembrance goes away, finished, blank. So Krishna, progress in Krishna consciousness is not about, just like when we go to gym, for example. We go to gym and we pull weights or whatever people do. And now let's say they do it for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. The more they do, the more body they have built. Now that is an asset which they have. Krishna consciousness ऐसा नहीं होता. It's not that we have achieved something by our ardent following of the process, and now we have some asset which will always be here. Yes, we know it will always be there. Neha Vikraman, what is that? Pratyavayona vidyate swalpam. So we have, that's there. But then you never know when it can get automatically covered. The moment we commit offenses, the moment we are not sincere anymore, so that mercy can be withdrawn. And as soon as the mercy can be withdrawn, it's not that I have that. It will go into dormant state, and we may forget even some basic things. Like once I was asking ISKCON Sarjapur Road, why is it that sometimes, sometimes we are very convinced about a body, soul, God, Krishna and all that. But at other times, sometimes we get these kind of questions that is Krishna really there? Are we really soul? It may happen. It may happen. And then Roji was telling this is because we commit offenses. So anytime we get some basic doubt in Krishna consciousness, even after practicing for many years, or even after giving classes on that topic many, many times, then we should understand that, I have committed some offense. Just like remember Rupa Goswami, he was in meditation, he was remembering some nice pastime, and then in the pastime, some funny scene was happening between Radha Krishna. वो Radha Rani had climbed that branch and then Krishna had ऊपर नीचे हो गया था. तो उसको देख के हंसे थे Rupa Goswami. And then there was a handicapped person incidentally coming at the same time. और इसको लगा कि इसके ऊपर हंस रहे हैं, इसका मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं. He is, handicapped, लंगड़ा था वो, तो उसको लगा मजाक उड़ा रहे हैं. तो unknowingly offense हो गया और इनका तुरंत इनका पास टाइम चला गया. इनको तुरंत समझ में आ गया रुको कुछ तो गड़बड़ हो गया है मेरे से. You see? So we should be always conscious of how the science of mercy works. It is not our prowess. It is not by our abilities that we achieve progress in Krishna consciousness. Bhakti is a path of grace. जो भी advancement हमारा होता है वो grace से होता है, mercy से होता है. और वो at every moment we are dependent on that mercy. Anytime that mercy is taken away, we may be back to square one. It is a very horrifying thing. Therefore, sometimes you see even after 40 years, 50 years of practicing Krishna consciousness, sometimes people apparently become materialist. They give up Krishna consciousness and they become materialist. It's another thing, they'll never be happy in that, because once they have tasted Krishna, you cannot live a life without Krishna. That's a problem. Therefore, there is a lecture by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. A fallen devotee is most miserable. You've heard that? Please hear that lecture. A fallen devotee is most miserable. Because he has tasted Krishna. Now, for whatever reason he wants to go away from Krishna, he cannot. His life becomes miserable. So he has to come back. That is the beauty of Krishna's mercy. But anyway, so, this is path of grace. So we should have faith. And this faith comes by mercy. When we render service, when we are genuinely trying to please seniors, when we are genuinely trying to please Śrīla Prabhupāda, by that mercy, our life of Krishna consciousness is going on. It is not about intellectual understanding. Progress in Krishna consciousness is not about intellectual understanding. It is about getting certain realizations by the mercy of the Lord. And we are moment to moment dependent on that mercy. Therefore, it's not that pure devotees pray today and they get whatever they prayed for. So next time when they meet Krishna, they will not pray. No, every moment they are praying. Every time they are praying. Every time they come to Krishna, they are praying. Because they know that we are dependent on mercy. Without that mercy, it can all be finished in a moment. Not finished, but covered in a moment. It doesn't get finished, we know, but it can covered in a moment. So Parikshit Maharaj was hearing with faith that yes, by hearing this, I am perfecting my life. There is nothing else to be done. Just like in that Sunday we discussed about Shraddha, right? That, if I'm doing this, everything else is happening. I don't have to worry. He was also hearing with compassion. Parikshit Maharaj was also hearing with compassion. He was not only worried about himself. He was hearing for everybody, for others' benefit. And also in 5th canto, when the description of hellish planets come, the natural question of Parikshit Maharaj was, how will people get out of this? And then this Ajamila section comes, right? So Parikshit Maharaj is always having compassion. See, this is what Krishna likes. Krishna does not like us to be very individualistic, because in a spiritual, there is a big joint family, and there is a tendency when we focus too much on our own individual sadhana, there is a tendency we become very individualistic. That is not perfection in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, it is said individual purity is very important, but collective unity is also very important, especially in the age of Kali Yuga. And forget about unity part, that is our Kali Yuga thing, quarrel and all that. But even the very nature of spiritual practice is that it's like a joint family together in spiritual world. So it's not about our own individual practice. So Krishna likes when we are always thinking about others. In Bhagavad Gita, we know how there are so many series of shlokas, when in the end Krishna says, "He's very dear to me, he's very dear to me, he's very dear to me." I think 12th chapter, whatever series of shlokas. Similarly, in any section you take in Bhagavatam, Krishna will, whenever Krishna is talking about what I like, he will one highlight humility, another he will highlight tolerance, and the third he will highlight friendly to all living entities. You're compassionate to all living entities. You're behaving others the way you would want to behave with yourself. That is a very important thing in the list, high in the list of priority of Krishna. And therefore, that analogy comes that Krishna likes butter. Soft, white, soft butter. And I was hearing white represents purity. So we should be pure. And the butter, the softness represents compassion. So when our heart will become white, ऐसा मतलब खून का कमी नहीं, कहने का मतलब white with purity, मतलब lust, greed, envy, anger, pride, illusion को थोड़ा-थोड़ा हम हटा रहे हैं, तो उतना white हो रहा है. So when our heart will become white with purity and soft with compassion, then Krishna will steal our soft butter-like heart. And that is what Parikshit Maharaj was also remembering when he was hearing, or demonstrating when he was hearing. So hearing and chanting, so this is how we see how Parikshit Maharaj, demonstrated such amazing qualities of how one should hear. And hearing and chanting, they are like spiritual gym. So just like when one goes to gym and does some exercise to build muscles, similarly, hearing and chanting is spiritual exercise to build spiritual muscles. That's very important. Hearing, chanting, watering the plant, that's very important for us. And what are the spiritual muscles? Of humility and tolerance. That they are spiritual muscles of humility and tolerance. And once I was hearing, Radhesham Prabhu was telling this, that what is ultimate purpose of life? Krishna consciousness, active remembrance of Krishna, right? The ultimate goal of life is what? Active remembrance of Krishna, not only at the time of death, not only Anta Narayan Smriti, but throughout life. That is Krishna consciousness. But active remembrance of Krishna will come only when we have attachment. Because whatever we are attached to, actively remember that. Attachment will come when we have absorption. Absorption will come when we have attraction. And attraction will come when we are hearing. Attentive hearing. That's what Radhesham was telling. So just like he was giving an example, Brahmanas are attracted by knowledge. Brahmanas are attracted by knowledge. Therefore, you see, naturally, they are absorbed in knowledge. Everywhere they'll seek knowledge only. कहीं कुछ अच्छा point मिलेगा note कर लेंगे. Because they are attracted by knowledge. Kshatriyas are attracted by expansion, conquering over enemies or expansion. Therefore, they'll always be thinking about that. What we are trying to say is absorption follows attraction. So whatever we are attracted by, that is what will be absorbed in. Jai Shri Radha Madhav ki nahi offering ho raha hai kya? Acha. So whatever we are attracted by will be absorbed in that. So Brahmanas are attracted by knowledge, so they'll be absorbed in that. Kshatriyas are attracted by expansion, conquering enemies, they'll be absorbed in that. Then kaun aaya? Vaishyas. Vaishyas are attracted by money, so they'll be absorbed in that. अच्छा ये इतने का है तो इसको यहाँ एक नया बिजनेस शुरू कर देते हैं, यहाँ पे अच्छा मार्केट है, लाइक दैट. एंड शूद्रास आर अट्रैक्टेड बाय loyalty, sense of security, stability, and they'll always be worried about that. They'll always be absorbed in that. अरे मेरा जॉब चला गया तो क्या होगा? You see, मेरा insecurity. That is actually coming from Shudra tendency. Nothing bad. हम लोग क्या caste system इतना strongly वो कर दिया गया था इंडिया में, जिससे कि शूद्रा सुनते ही हमको क्या लगता है, खराब है. शूद्रा doesn't mean necessarily खराब. These are all different tendencies. So absorption. So loyalty, steadiness and security. मतलब हम तो अभी शूद्रा भी नहीं, क्योंकि लॉयल्टी भी क्वेश्चनेबल है, स्टेडीनेस भी क्वेश्चनेबल है, सिक्योरिटी तो है ही नहीं. शूद्रा भी नहीं. एंड देन देयर इज दिस इंपॉर्टेंट टेस्ट ऑफ रीडिंग हियरिंग. रीडिंग हियरिंग कर रहे हैं डेली सुबह कर रहे हैं. बताओ, तो अभी तक तो प्योर डिवोटी बन जाना चाहिए था. सो देयरफॉर वी हैव टू सर्व आल्सो. वी हैव टू सर्व, वी हैव टू अट्रैक्ट द मर्सी ऑफ द लॉर्ड. अगर हम केवल रीडिंग कर रहे हैं एज अ रूटीन और एज एन इंटेलेक्चुअल एक्सरसाइज, you are actually not making advancement. We may not be making advancement if we are not becoming a sincere servant, because advancement will actually happen by mercy. Just like when we read and hear, initially we are getting theoretical understanding. तो theoretical understanding किधर आता है? ब्रेन में. लेकिन रियलाइजेशन ब्रेन का फंक्शन नहीं है, रियलाइजेशन हार्ट का फंक्शन है. तो ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग और रियलाइजेशन, इसका गैप कैसे ब्रिज होगा? by mercy, by rendering service. Whatever we are reading, hearing, we'll be able to realize it when we are actually sincere servant. Therefore, Sandipani Muni blessed Krishna and Sudama that may this knowledge always be fresh, and may you are able to realize this knowledge, every time. That happens by service. On the other hand, करना को कर्स मिला था कि तुम जो भी पढ़ रहे हो, रीडिंग हियरिंग कर रहे हो, वो जब काम आएगा तब तुमको उसको याद ही नहीं आएगा. Again, सर्वस्य चाहमृति सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर् ज्ञानम अपोहनम च comes by Krishna. So let's say when we need, let's say there is a quarrel between devotees. Reading hearing तो बहुत किया है कि पृथु महाराज इंद्र का क्वारल हुआ था, ये हुआ था, वो हुआ था. 50 पॉइंट भी हम बता देंगे. प्रिजनर ऑफ अचीवमेंट वर्सेस क्या है वो, प्रिजनर ऑफ सक्सेस वर्सेस एंड ऑल दैट. देन इनर सक्सेस एंड आउटर सक्सेस, वो पूरा बता देंगे. लेकिन जब हमारा किसी के साथ कंफ्लिक्ट हो रहा है तो सब भूल गए. तो वो कब याद आएगा? वो फोर फ्रंट में कब आएगा? जो भी हम रीडिंग हियरिंग कर रहे हैं वो फोर फ्रंट में कब आएगा? व्हेन हम सर्विस अच्छे से कर रहे हैं और हमारा एटीट्यूड अच्छा है. देयरफॉर प्रभुपाद राइट्स इन एनवाई प्रीफेस, एडवांसमेंट इन कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस डिपेंड्स अपॉन द एटीट्यूड ऑफ द फॉलोअर. सो दो टेस्ट है रीडिंग हियरिंग का. एक है कि व्हाइल इन दिस लाइफ वी आर कॉन्शियस दैट वी आर डूइंग एवरीथिंग फॉर द प्लेजर ऑफ कृष्णा, एंड दूसरा एट द टाइम ऑफ डेथ वी रिमेंबर कृष्णा. दैट इज द रिजल्ट, दैट इज द टेस्ट ऑफ आवर रीडिंग हियरिंग. कि why as we are leading our life day to day. See, some people think Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam teaches us how to leave this world. ऐसा बोला तो राजेश प्रभु बहुत गुस्सा हो जाएंगे. There many devotees will become very, because we also know that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is everything. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is not just telling us how to leave the world. Of course, Ramayana and Mahabharata, see, every scripture has a focus. So Ramayana and Mahabharata का main focus है how to live in this world. How to discharge your duties and become a devotee of Krishna, or how a devotee of Krishna behaves. At the same time, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है, and इसलिए sometimes you see different school of thought in ISKCON also. There are some devotees who have started becoming more attracted by Ramayana and Mahabharata than Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Is this wrong or right? Tension आ गया. To get attracted by Ramayana and Mahabharata, wonderful, because that is Krishna. Vede Ramayane chaiva Purane Bharate tatha Adau ante cha madhye cha Hari sarvatra giyate. So in Ramayana and Mahabharata also, it's glorification of Lord Hari. And by reading it, if my love for Krishna, love for Ram is increasing, wonderful. If I am trying to take lessons from it and applying in my life, wonderful. No harm. ऐसा नहीं, कोई बोला नहीं है कि नहीं अपने आप फैमिली लाइफ में लेसन अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. तब तो मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम राम बन के आते ही नहीं, अगर फैमिली लेसन हमको लेना ही नहीं था तो. करेक्ट? तो ऐसा नहीं है. बट वो हम प्राइमरी बना लें और ओवर एंड अबव प्योर डिवोशन, वो गलत हो जाएगा. या उसके चक्कर में भागवतम पढ़ना बंद कर दें, वो गलत हो जाएगा. You are getting what I'm trying to say? So there is nothing, because there are these different kinds of devotees you will see even in ISKCON. And these things, as our movement progresses more and more, we'll see many schools of thought even within ISKCON. Forget about outside ISKCON Ritvik, and forget about other Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradayas, and forget about other 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. वो तो बढ़ता चला जाएगा. Even within the particular branch of ISKCON, you will see many understandings. But a sincere sadhaka, a sincere sevaka can remain protected. Krishna can protect. So we should never ever forget Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Pramanam Amalam. हम अपना खुद का मिशन नहीं बना रहे, हम चैतन्य महाप्रभु के फॉलोअर्स हैं, हम गौड़ीय वैष्णवास हैं। तो चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने जिसको हाईएस्ट पेडेस्टल पे रखा है, हम अपना इतना बुद्धिमान कभी नहीं हो सकते कि हम उसको नीचे करके किसी दूसरी चीज को हायर पेडेस्टल पे रखते, राइट? यस, श्री संप्रदाय फॉर देम रामायण इज द मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट स्क्रिप्चर, मध्वा संप्रदाय महाभारत इज द मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंट स्क्रिप्चर, रामाचार्य लक्ष्मण है, मध्वाचार्य भीम है तो नेचुरल है, राइट? बट चैतन्य महाप्रभु ने चारों संप्रदाय का एक जबरदस्त कॉम्बिनेशन बनाया है और हमको वो दिया है जो टॉप मोस्ट है। मानना है तो मानिए, मत मानना है मत मानिए, ढूंढते रहिए, इधर उधर जाते रहिए, लॉयल्टी, ब्रॉड माइंडेडनेस अच्छी बात है, पर लॉयल्टी भी एक चीज है। मतलब दीज स्कूल्स ऑफ थॉट्स आर वेरी डेंजरस। डेंजरस क्यों? क्योंकि कुछ पॉजिटिविटी है, क्योंकि आप ये नहीं बोल सकते ना नहीं यही बेस्ट है बाकी सब बेकार है, ये गलत है। करेक्ट? यू कैन नॉट डू लाइक दैट, यू हैव टू बी ब्रॉड माइंडेड, यू हैव टू बी अकोमोडेटेड, यू हैव टू रेस्पेक्ट एंड अप्रिशिएट एवरीथिंग। तो दोनों एक्सट्रीम गलत होता है। एक एक्सट्रीम क्या गलत होता है? नहीं यही सब कुछ है बाकी सब बेकार, नहीं प्रभुपाद ही एक प्योर डिवोटी है बाकी सब बेकार है, ये गलत है। तो जब हम इस एक्सट्रीम पे चले जाते हैं तो कुछ एक नए डिवोटीज क्रॉप अप करते हैं जो फिर इस तरफ ठीक करने की कोशिश करते हैं, और वो सही है। और जब ठीक करते करते थोड़ा ज्यादा इस तरफ चले जाएंगे अगर, जहां पे लगेगा नहीं जैसे प्रभुपाद है वैसे बाकी भी है, जैसे भागवतम है वैसे बाकी भी है, ये गलत हो जाएगा। तो हमारा संप्रदाय का तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं हुआ फिर, राइट? हमारा आइडेंटिटी हमें कभी नहीं भूलना है, वो आर वी गौड़ीय वैष्णवस। एंड चैतन्य महाप्रभु वेरी क्लियरली सेड, आराध्यो, मेरा आज रिमेम्बरेंस का बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम, आराध्यो रजेश तनयस ततधाम वृंदावनम रम्या काचिदुपासन व्रजवने व्रज वधु वर्गेण वा कल्पिता श्रीमद्भागवतम प्रमाणममलम प्रेम पुमर्थो महान श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु और मतमिदम तत्रादर न परः। चैतन्य महाप्रभु का क्या मत है कि 5 सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं। आराध्यो भगवान व्रजेश तनयस, हु इज द सुप्रीम, हु इज अवर सुप्रीम आराध्य? कृष्णा। तदधाम वृंदावनम, हु इज अवर सुप्रीमली वर्शिपेबल अबोर्ड? वृंदावन। रम्या काचिदुपासन व्रजवधु वर्गेण वा कल्पिता, हु आर द टॉप मोस्ट सुप्रीम वर्शिपर्स और डिवोटीज ऑफ कृष्णा? द गोपीज ऑफ वृंदावन। श्रीमद्-भागवतम प्रमाणम अमलम, व्हाट इज द टॉप मोस्ट प्रमाण, द टॉप मोस्ट स्क्रिप्चर? श्रीमद्-भागवतम। प्रेम पुमर्थो महान, एंड व्हाट इज द टॉप मोस्ट गोल ऑफ लाइफ? कृष्ण प्रेम। तो जब भी हमें लाइफ में कंफ्यूजन आए तो हमें ये सब कुछ सूत्रा का सहारा लेना चाहिए। We should always remember certain statements of Prabhupada, certain shlokas of Bhagavatam और certain aspects of our philosophy which are the tenets. Tenets सब समझते क्या होता है? Tenets मतलब जैसे हमारी कंपनी अमेजोन में भी there are some tenets. जब भी कोई मीटिंग हो, कोई डिस्कशन हो, कोई डिसीजन लेना हो, तो वहां पहले ऊपर में लिखा रहता है टेनेट्स क्या है। मतलब आप कोई भी डिसीजन लोगे, ये टेनेट्स उसमें ट्रू होना चाहिए। तो अगर सोचो टेनेट है कि कस्टमर हैप्पी होना चाहिए, अब आप डिसीजन ले रहे हो उसमें कस्टमर हैप्पी नहीं हो रहा है, मतलब वो डिसीजन नहीं ले सकते। इसी टेनेट्स मतलब उसको टच नहीं कर सकते, वो फुलफिल होना चाहिए। Similarly, we should remember certain tenets as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We should always remember, because as we spend more and more years in Krishna consciousness in ISKCON, meeting more and more devotees, we will see different things. So therefore, that lighthouse should be very very clear कि हमारा लाइट हाउस कौन है, उसको पकड़ के रखना है, और वो लाइट हाउस का लाइट भी बंद हो जाए तो दूसरा लाइट हाउस को पकड़ लीजिए। ऐसा भी होता रहता है, लाइट हाउस का लाइट वाइट भी बंद होता रहता है। So because anything is possible in this material world. So ये टेस्ट है। So when we are reading hearing, we should understand that ultimately वो हमारे लाइफ में हमको अप्लाई करना है और वो मर्सी से आएगा। And then एक I'll just probably end with this। 8:30 हो गया ब्रो, 8:40 तक करना है क्या? 8:30 तक, तो I'll end right now immediately. Maybe I'll just talk about this one nice another point which comes in स्कंद पुराण। तो एक सेक्शन आता है स्कंद पुराण में वैष्णव खंड। in वैष्णव खंड there is a section called भागवत महात्म्य। देखो कहां से डिवोटी लोग ढूंढ के लाए, एंड इट्स अ वेरी ऑथराइज्ड थिंग। राधा गोविंद महाराज स्पीक्स अबाउट इट, इट्स देयर इन कृष्ण कथामृत बिंदु। वहां से मैं बता रहा हूँ कि इन स्कंद पुराण देयर इज अ सेक्शन कॉल्ड वैष्णव खंड, एंड उसके अंदर एक भागवत महात्म्य का 4 चैप्टर है। वो 4 चैप्टर में क्या स्टोरी आ रहा है कि आफ्टर कृष्णास डिपार्चर द क्वींस ऑफ द्वारका आर फीलिंग इंटेंस सेपरेशन फ्रॉम कृष्णा। तो वो जनाब उनको लेके जाते हैं वृंदावन, एंड वृंदावन लेके जाते हैं और वहां पे वो यमुना को देखते हैं, कालिंदी को, who that time manifested as a queen of Krishna also. And Kalindi was very happy. And they wondered, अरे कृष्णा चले गए और ये तो इतनी हैप्पी, हमारा तो यहाँ रो रो के बुरा हाल हो रहा है, और ये तो इतना हैप्पी है। So then Kalindi Yamuna is telling that I am actually constantly serving Radha and Krishna. And because I am serving them, I am not feeling separation. And then these queens say, oh, acha, acha, acha. And then they say how service and Krishna is absolute. ये आ रहा है वहां पर उस चैप्टर में. And then they say, अच्छा, how can we serve? And then they say, अब कृष्णा तो चले गए हैं, तो आप एक काम करो, hearing भागवतम, भागवत महात्म्य में आ रहा है ना. So the point of that was, if you read and hear Bhagavatam, you will not feel separation from Krishna, because Bhagavatam is Krishna. तो वो अच्छा अच्छा, अब किसे सुने भागवतम, किसे सुने भागवतम? तो बोला उद्धव जो है ना, वैसे तो कृष्णा जाते समय उनको बोला था बद्रिकाश्रम में चले जाओ और वहां सबको बताओ, तो अभी उद्धव वहां है, लेकिन यहाँ वृंदावन में भी है. कहाँ है वृंदावन में उद्धव? कहाँ है? कुसुम सरोवर के पीछे गुलमलता बन गए हैं उद्धव क्यारी, उद्धव कुंड, वहां पर. तो ये लोग गए, परीक्षित महाराज, वज्रनाभ एंड द क्वींस ऑफ द्वारका, दे वेंट टू दैट प्लेस एंड दे स्टार्टेड डूइंग कीर्तन. कीर्तन किया तो एक्सटेसी में उद्धव मैनिफेस्ट होके आ गए. बोले अरे वाह, कितना अच्छा लग रहा है आप लोग को देख के. फिर उन्होंने बताया कि इफ वी हियर भागवतम देन यू विल नॉट फील सेपरेशन फ्रॉम कृष्णा. और परीक्षित को बोला तुम एक काम करो, कल ही आ चुका है, तुम जाओ एक वर्ल्ड टूर पे और जरा उसको भगाओ, मैं इन लोग को भागवतम सुनाता हूँ. See, I was so impressed with this. My faith in Shastras increased so much. Hearing Shastras from the right source. नहीं तो रॉन्ग सोर्स से सुनेंगे तो कंफ्यूजन बढ़ेगा. राइट सोर्स से सुनेंगे तो रहेगा, अरे वाह, यहाँ पे ये लिखा है, यहाँ पे ये लिखा है, इसको कनेक्ट कर पा रहे हैं. तो वी नो इन भागवतम, भागवतम में खाली वही जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ बल्लेश्वर मैया की जय, श्री गौर निताय की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. तो वी नो इन भागवतम लिखा है ना कि परीक्षित महाराज वर्ल्ड टूर पे चले गए थे, फिर देखा कली, फिर मारना वारना वो सब किया, राइट. और उसके बाद फिर कर्स हुआ, फिर भागवतम सुने. ऐसा थोड़ी भागवतम उस समय आया, भागवतम तो पहले से चला आ रहा है. उसके पहले भागवतम यहाँ उद्धव सुना रहे हैं क्वींस ऑफ द्वारका में, और वहां परीक्षित थे. लेकिन परीक्षित को बोला तुम जाओ वहां पे, कल ही आया है, तुम उसका वो देखो. तो परीक्षित बोला अरे लेकिन मेरा तो छूट जाएगा, मेरा क्लास मिस हो जाएगा, क्या करने का? बोले तुम चिंता मत करो, तुम जब वहां जाओगे ना, ऐसा कुछ होगा कि सुखदेव गोस्वामी तुमको भागवतम सुनाए, स्पेशल क्लास मिलेगा तुमको, सीन सो नाइस. तो वहां पर ना जब ये आ जाता है तो भागवतम सुना देते हैं. फिर शौनक आदि ऋषि सूत गोस्वामी से पूछते हैं कि अच्छा और बताइए ना भागवतम के बारे में, भागवतम के सुनने वालों के बारे में बताइए, हियरर्स ऑफ भागवतम. एंड देन सूत गोस्वामी टेल्स these श्लोकास wherein he says there are good hearers and bad hearers of Bhagavatam. I'll just talk about this and end. He says good hearers are 4 types. कौन बोल रहा है? सूत गोस्वामी, शौनक आदि ऋषि. इसको ये कहाँ आ रहा है, किस शास्त्र में आ रहा है? भागवत महात्म्य, स्कंद पुराण के वैष्णव खंड के भागवत महात्म्य. क्या बोल रहे हैं सूत गोस्वामी? एंड दिस लास्ट पॉइंट वील एंड विद. सूत गोस्वामी इज टेलिंग that there are 2 kinds of hearers of Bhagavatam, good hearers and bad hearers. अच्छे सुनने वाले और खराब सुनने वाले, सुपीरियर, इंफीरियर. जो सुपीरियर है वो 4 प्रकार के हैं. वन आर लाइक चातका बर्ड्स. वी नो चातका बर्ड क्या होता है, उसको और कुछ नहीं चाहिए, उसको रेन जब आएगा ना वो वाला पानी चाहिए. तो दीज हियरर्स दे ओनली वांट कृष्ण कथा एंड नथिंग एल्स. चातका बर्ड, they only want to hear krishna katha and nothing else. Number 1. Number 2, hamsa, swan. You know swan का स्पेशलिटी, दूध पानी अलग अलग कर देगा. तो 1000 चीज सुन रहा है, उसमें से वो एसेंस ले लेगा. हमसा, तो सेकंड काइंड ऑफ हियरर. इसमें कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि ये अच्छा ये बुरा, ऐसा नहीं बात हो रही. बात हो रही है गुड हियरर्स आर दीज काइंड्स. कुछ होते हैं ऐसे जो कि केवल कृष्ण कथा सुनेंगे, गुड. कुछ होते हैं जो कुछ भी सुन रहे हैं पर उसमें से कृष्ण का एसेंस निकाल लेंगे, गुड, हमसा. थर्ड है शुका. शुका मतलब पैरट. पैरट क्या करेगा, जब सुन रहा है ना तो बोलता कम है, सुनता ज्यादा है, कम बोलता है सुनते समय. ही इज सो एब्सॉर्ब्ड इन हियरिंग दैट ही स्पीक्स लिटिल व्हाइल हियरिंग. Listens carefully, speaking only what is appropriate. शुका, पैरट. एंड फोर्थ इज मीना, मछली, फिश. फिश क्या कर रही है, एकदम ध्यान लगाए हुए, चुप है, एकदम बोल ही नहीं रही है. तो इतना एब्जॉर्प्शन, इतना स्टंड हो गया हियरिंग करके आदमी. when somebody is hearing, he is so stunned, mesmerized, that he's just completely absorbed in hearing, not even speaking a word. That is fish. 4 types of good hearers. And 4 types of bad hearers थोड़ा रिलेट कर पाएंगे हम लोग ज्यादा. वो क्या बोल रहे हैं? वुल्फ. बोला वुल्फ. वुल्फ क्या करता है, जंगल में एक डियर है, वो आराम से फ्लूट का म्यूजिक सुनने में मस्त एब्जॉर्ब्ड है. और वुल्फ जो भी आवाज निकालता होगा वो निकाल के डियर का मेडिटेशन को डिस्टर्ब कर रहा है. तो वुल्फ क्या करता है कि मेक्स रूड कमेंट्स एंड गिव्स ट्रबल टू एक्सपर्ट हियरर. जो ध्यान से सुनने की कोशिश कर रहा है उसको डिस्टर्ब कर रहा है बाय गिविंग रूड कमेंट्स एंड बाय क्रिएटिंग डिस्टर्बेंस. वो हो गया वुल्फ. वन काइंड ऑफ बैड हियरर. व्हाट इज द अदर काइंड ऑफ बैड हियरर? भुरुंदा बर्ड. Burunda bird, it seems, it teaches others without himself having actually heard and practiced. तो सोचो बिना ट्रेनिंग के कोई क्लास दे रहा है, या बिना बिना सिंसेरिटी के कोई क्लास दे रहा है. या खुद उसको ईगरनेस नहीं है प्रैक्टिस करने में, और ही हैज नॉट हर्ड प्रॉपर्ली. इफ यू रिमेंबर व्हेन शौनक आदि ऋषिज आर ग्लोरीफाइंग सुत गोस्वामी, व्हाट आर द वन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ दैट? यू हैव हर्ड प्रॉपर्ली. हर समय द क्वालिफिकेशन टू स्पीक is first to hear. The qualification to lead is first to serve. Only the best servant is the best leader. All these things are so nicely connected. So Burunda bird apparently, it seems, teaches others without himself having actually heard and practiced. That is the second bad hearer. Third bad hearer, bull. Bull. Bull का क्या है? Accepts everything he hears, blind to what is important and what is not important. क्योंकि bull apparently it seems कि bull के अगर आप सामने स्वादिष्ट अंगूर रख दो, टेस्टी ग्रेप्स, और ड्राई ऑयल केक, अब यहाँ इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन में ड्राई ऑयल केक लिखा था, उसका मतलब मेरे को एक्चुअली पता नहीं, बट पॉइंट इज कि उसको अच्छा खाना दो, खराब खाना दो, उसके लिए एक बराबर है, दोनों खा लेगा, कोई टेंशन नहीं. पर इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में वहां पे एक गड़बड़ ये है कि भाई जो भी मिल रहा है आप सुन ले रहे हो, यूट्यूब पे जा रहे हो, ये लेक्चर हाँ सुन लिया, ये महाराज हाँ सुन लिया, वो महाराज हाँ सुन लिया, वो वृंदावन में हाँ सुन लिया, सब सुन लिया, तो बुल जैसा हियर है ये. इसको पता ही नहीं है व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, व्हाट इज नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट, व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, व्हाट इज नॉट इंपॉर्टेंट. और चौथा बैड हियरर कैमल. वो मैंगो छोड़ के नींबू खा रहा है. वो एक कदम आगे, कम से कम ये सुन तो रहा था दोनों, वो भी गलत है, लेकिन ये मैंगो को सुनना ही नहीं है उसको, नींबू खा रहा है. दैट्स व्हाट इट सेड. He rejects sweet and takes pleasure in bitter, just like camel who rejects mangoes and feeds himself with fruits. So we'll just quickly summarize what we discussed. So first we talked about the context of this shloka, कि कैसे शौनक आदि ऋषि बोले चलो अब वापस पॉइंट पर आते हैं, परीक्षित महाराज के बारे में बताइए. They demonstrate their eagerness in hearing about one who has perfected his life in hearing. And then we saw how hearing is so important. It is like vitamin H. हम लोग B12, D, we talk about all of that, but vitamin H is very, very important. Vitamin hearing. And I was hearing in my Bhakti Shastri class, my teacher was telling that how hearing is like a breast milk, just like breast milk for infant, itna important hai. Kevalam. That's what Prabhupada is also telling you, right? Just see, now I understand that analogy. Breast milk for child. That is important and nothing else. Dono. Similarly, Prabhupada is writing here. This is important and nothing else. Therefore, it's like breast milk for us. And then we talked about how Parikshit Maharaj demonstrated such wonderful characteristics of how we should hear. Absorbed, determined, eager, attentive, inquisitive, with having faith in what we are hearing, in having appreciation for the speaker. They are all good characteristics of hearing. And then what we saw? The spiritual muscles. We talked about that. And then we talked about how attraction, hearing gives attraction, that gives absorption, that gives attachment, and only that gives active remembrance of Krishna. So therefore it is so important. And then we talked also about the test of reading hearing, that, and the role of mercy in our life. And then finally we talked about Suta Goswami describing 4 types of good hearers and 4 types of bad hearers. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Tantra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Any questions or comments? Yes, Kripakar Prabhu.
Thank you so much for the class. Many times we hear that Jnana is yoga of head and then Bhakti yoga is the yoga of heart, something of that sort. So what do they actually mean when we say heart? Definitely not physical heart, but what do they really mean?
Devotional, loving, serving Krishna with love. So Jnana Yoga is about, as we were discussing last Sunday also, I believe, that in Jnana Yoga, the focus is that by cultivating knowledge, we are trying to arrive at a conclusion. Naiti, naiti. इन्होंने ये नहीं है, absolute truth क्या है, मिल नहीं रहा, पता चलता नहीं, ये तो नहीं है, अच्छा शायद ये है. That is Jnana Yoga, wherein you are trying to cultivate knowledge to arrive at a conclusion. Bhakti Yoga, you are not trying to arrive at a conclusion. Conclusion is given in Guru Sadhu and Bhakti Shastras. You are just reading more about the conclusion to know the conclusion better, to develop your faith in the conclusion, to develop your attraction for the conclusion. तो ये है. Now, therefore, when we say head and heart, head यहाँ क्यों आ रहा है? क्योंकि यहाँ पे intellectual jugglery ज्यादा है. With your intelligence, you are trying to understand the absolute truth. तो इसलिए head ये clear है. यहाँ पे heart क्यों? Because bhakti is a matter of heart. Bhakti is a matter of love. It's not a matter of a particular activity. It's not a faculty of intelligence. It's a faculty of heart, emotions, sentiments for Krishna. इसलिए heart बोला है. Because in bhakti, the most important thing is feeling. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya uparati. So therefore bhakti is a matter of emotions or feelings, and therefore Prabhupada used to say devotion is the most misunderstood emotion in India. बिकॉज वो कुछ रीडिंग हियरिंग के बेसिस पर नहीं है, वो विज्ञान भक्ति का नहीं है, नेक्टर और डिवोशन के ऊपर आधारित नहीं है इसलिए। पर अदरवाइज अल्टीमेटली भक्ति में इमोशंस और सेंटिमेंट्स ही अल्टीमेटली मेन है, और सेंटिमेंट्स फॉर कृष्णा, like that. Like we say na, to develop any relationship you go through 3 stages: know, act, feel. KAF. Know, act, feel. So any relationship begins with this. Let's say somebody is about to get married, so any relationship begins with knowledge about the person. Then you act on the basis of that knowledge, and then gradually over years feelings develop, but ultimately feelings will have to develop. So Krishna consciousness is about getting feelings for Krishna, therefore heart. Does that clarify, Prabhu? Okay. Yes.
One question to that. I'm not sure maybe somewhere I read that more important than just more.
See, these things we have to understand in context. Once somebody asked Prabhupada, you have written so many books. If you have to just keep one book with you, which one you will keep? He said Bhagavad Gita. Depends on who you are speaking to, what is the time, place, and circumstances and context, right? Similarly, we know how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked. See, we have to understand Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and Charitamrita. Don't see them as separated. Bhagavatam has to be seen from the lens of Bhagavad Gita, and Charitamrita has to be seen from the lens of Bhagavatam. And ultimately, so we know, right, the words of Krishna, activities of Krishna, and mind of Krishna. So when we don't try to honestly create a distinction between these three, because they are all Bhakti Shastras only. When we are talking about Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is most important, we are trying to compare it with so many other scriptures also. We are not necessarily trying to just compare it with Bhagavad Gita per se. Number one, that's one understanding of mine. That we don't have to honestly find a distinction here, because person Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita is person Bhagavat and devotees ka dealings. Bhagavatam is about Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita is leading you to Bhagavatam. So in one sense, they are kind of together. So सोचो कोई नया व्यक्ति है, अब नया व्यक्ति को आप बताओगे श्रीमद भागवतम is most important, it's like yes also, वो तो fact है, और आप बोलोगे भगवद गीता is most important, वो भी true है, right? So we don't have to necessarily get into नहीं उन्होंने तो ये बोला था, उन्होंने तो ये बोला था, because you are right. Once somebody asked Prabhupada what is most important, he said Bhagavad Gita. Then in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati pastime, I remember once it said कि अगर boat heavy हो रहा है बहुत और आपका boat डूब रहा है, I think it comes in some सज्जन तोषणी वैष्णव तोषणी somewhere, तो आप बुक फेंक दो, बाकी सब बुक फेंक दो, भगवद गीता भागवतम और चैतन्य रख लो, और भी डूब रहा है तो भगवद गीता फेंक दो, और भी डूब रहा है मर रहे हो तो भागवतम फेंक दो, और भी डूब रहा है मर रहे हो तो खुद डूब जाओ, क्योंकि अब चैतन्य चेतावन नहीं है तो जीने का क्या फायदा? That's the past time. ऐसा नहीं कि so point is because he's talking to his disciples, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is Krishna consciousness in action. मतलब उनका भागवतम पढ़ के हो गया, भगवद गीता पढ़ के हो गया. From that perspective you can see it, right? So like, otherwise we should not try to differentiate these three, because they are all reinforcing each other. These three are reinforcing each other. Exactly. Therefore, I said we are not averse to Ramayana. See what happens? कोई बोलेगा अरे प्रभु जी टीवी बहुत अच्छा है. टीवी क्यों अच्छा है? इंडिया में आपको पता है टीवी कहाँ आया था, कब आया था? अधिकतर घरों में रामानंद सागर, आप लोग शायद पैदा नहीं हो गए कुछ लोग. रामानंद सागर का रामायण 80s के समय, 81 that is the time when TV came in most houses in India. क्यों? अरे रामायण, हमारे प्रभु राम आ रहे हैं और मेरे और उनके बीच में बस एक चीज है टीवी, तो मुझे टीवी चाहिए. करेक्ट? तो ऐसे टीवी आया साधु बन के. रावण कैसे सीता को किडनैप किया था? साधु बन के. फिर क्या हो गया? साधु का रूप तो गायब हो गया, राक्षस का रूप आ गया. सिमिलरली टीवी कैसे आया? राम बन के. साधु तो छोड़ो, राम बन के आया. अभी राम किधर है टीवी में? है ना? तो अच्छा होता है, सब में बहुत कुछ अच्छा होता है, लेकिन अगर प्रभुपाद जैसे लोग, sometimes to establish truth you have to go to one extreme. See, therefore it is said, when Prabhupada said na social service bogus hai, ये ism वो ism, opening hospitals, all that is wrong. Has Prabhupada said or not? उसकी वजह से बहुत कंफ्यूजन हुआ था ISKCON में. बोला था ना? तो प्रभुपाद ने गलत बोला था क्या? नहीं. उस समय क्योंकि इतना खिचड़ी चल रहा था, उस खिचड़ी में पहले कृष्णा को आपको एक्सक्लूसिवली एस्टैब्लिश करना है. प्योर डिवोशन और कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस को एक्सक्लूसिवली एस्टैब्लिश आप तभी कर पाओगे जब आप बताओगे कि बाकी चीजें इसके सामने कुछ नहीं है यार. लेकिन once it starts establishing, now you start including things. Now you start including things because Krishna consciousness, please note this, Krishna consciousness includes and surpasses everything. क्या बोला मैंने? तो कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस में मात्र भक्ति इंक्लूडेड है, पितृ भक्ति भी इंक्लूडेड है, क्योंकि आप पितृ भक्त मात्र भक्त नहीं हो तो कृष्णा के भक्त कैसे बनोगे? कहने का मतलब ये नहीं कि आपको पहले ये बनना है फिर वो बनोगे। कहने का मतलब ये कि जो कृष्ण भक्त होगा वो मातृ भक्त भी होगा, विद इन लिमिट्स, विद इन बाउंड्री। ये नहीं कि माता बोली सिगरेट पियो तो सिगरेट पी रहा है, नॉट दैट सेंस, but in terms of gratitude, in terms of duty, because Krishna will like it. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? तो मैं, let me just complete my answer. तो point is कि जब टाइम प्लेस और सर्कमस्टेंसेस ऐसा होता है जब किसी को कुछ नहीं पता होता है, तो एक ट्रूथ इस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए और टू इस्टेब्लिश द एक्सक्लूसिविटी ऑफ कृष्णा, टू इस्टेब्लिश अनन्य भक्ति, टू इस्टेब्लिश प्योर डिवोशन टू कृष्णा अकॉर्डिंग टू रूप गोस्वामी, आपको बाकी सब बताना पड़ेगा। अरे ये छोड़ो, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये छोड़ो, ये इंपॉर्टेंट है, ये नॉनसेंस है, दिस इज मेन, दिस इज मेन। The more people become advanced in Krishna consciousness, now it will not be told to you job maya hai. No, your job is like your duty which you have to do to fulfill the responsibilities of your ashram and do it in Krishna consciousness. So you see the curve. पहले हम सब रिजेक्ट करते हैं, कृष्णा को लेते हैं। एक बार जब कृष्णा को पकड़ लिए, अब आप जितना ऐड कर सकते हो कर दो, नो प्रॉब्लम। कमिंग बैक टू योर क्वेश्चन नाउ, तो रामायण में भी सब कृष्णा ही प्योर डिवोशन सर्विस है। हाँ, जिसको पता है उसके लिए है, जिसको नहीं पता है वो जंगल में बिछड़ खो जाएगा। जैसे टीवी आया था साधु बनकर, तो महाभारत आएगा साधु बनकर, वो बाकी चीजों में डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो जाएंगे और राम और कृष्णा का प्योर डिवोशन हट जाएगा। जैसे वंस रायशम रोज टेलिंग कि एथीस्ट जब वो रामायण महाभारत पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें बिलीव ही नहीं करते हैं। एथीस्ट लोग जब रामायण महाभारत पढ़ते हैं बोलते क्या बकवास है, नॉर्मल फैंटेसी स्टोरी है। जब पायस पीपल, जब पायस लोग वो रामायण महाभारत पढ़ते हैं तो वहां के लेसन्स को अपने फैमिली लाइफ पे अप्लाई करते हैं। उनको देखो राम भरत कैसे, राम लक्ष्मण कैसे भाई भाई थे, तुम दोनों ऐसे भाई जैसा रहना। सुना है हम सब ने अपने अपने घरों में मम्मी से सुना ही होगा, हा? ऐसे रहना। भगवान किधर है मालूम नहीं, लेकिन जब डिवोटीज रामायण महाभारत भागवतम कुछ भी सुनते हैं तो देयर लव फॉर कृष्णा इंक्रीजेस लाइक दैट। पर इसके लिए पहले वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग होना पड़ेगा तब। इसलिए अगर कोई नए लोग को आप बता रहे हो, बताना पड़ेगा देखो पहले भागवतम समझो इंपॉर्टेंट अच्छे से। तो डिपेंड करता है टाइम प्लेस एंड सर्कमस्टेंसेस पे बहुत कुछ। Therefore, प्रभुपाद के नाम पे ही इतना कंफ्लिक्ट है ISKCON में। प्रभुपाद said this, how are you doing this? Because everything has a इसलिए पर्सन को समझना बहुत जरूरी है। इसलिए शिक्षा ना संबंध पे आधारित होती है। शिक्षा यूट्यूब से नहीं लेते हैं कि अरे इसने ये बोला, मैंने प्रभु जी इस लेक्चर में ये पॉइंट सुना था, इस लेक्चर में ये पॉइंट सुना था। एक बार once one lecture was going on and I and Rajesham Prabhu were sitting here next to each other and some things were going on in ISKCON Pune at that time. मेरे पास वो पेज है अभी। मैंने कुछ क्वेश्चन लिख के प्रभु जी को खिसका दिया। we are doing some offense while class was going on, लेकिन चलता है कभी कभी। मैंने कुछ क्वेश्चन लिख के प्रभु जी को दिया, प्रभु जी ने आंसर लिख के मेरे को दे दिया। फिर मैंने उसके ऊपर एक काउंटर क्वेश्चन लिख के प्रभु जी को दिया, प्रभु जी ने आंसर लिख के मेरे को दिया। फिर मैंने एक और काउंटर क्वेश्चन लिख के प्रभु जी को दिया। समरी इसका ये था कि मैंने बोला था कि ऐसा क्यों होता है कभी कभी एक ही गुरु के दो डिसाइपल हैं और दोनों कंप्लीटली अपोजिट हैं, और फिर बाकी लोग कंफ्यूज होते हैं इसको फॉलो करें कि इसको फॉलो करें। तो प्रभु जी इस चीज का इतना गहरा गहरा आंसर दे रहे थे ना। अल्टीमेटली उसका एसेंस ये था कि जब भी हम किसी से कुछ ज्ञान ले रहे हैं ना, और अगर आपको लगता है कि उसमें कुछ गड़बड़ी है, तो आप पहले उसको रिजेक्ट नहीं करते हो, आप पहले उसके साथ डिस्कशन करते हो, क्लैरिफाई करते हो, उसके समझने की कोशिश करते हो कि उसने ऐसा क्यों बोला या किस पर्सपेक्टिव में बोला। देन यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट ज्ञान बेटर। नॉट दैट इसने ये बोला मैंने इसका ये सेंटेंस ले लिया, इसने ये बोला मैंने इसका ये सेंटेंस ले लिया और अब मैं इसको रिकंसाइल कर रहा हूं। नहीं। देयरफॉर लॉयल्टी टू वन शिक्षा गुरु, वन मेंटर इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड हैविंग अ संबंध। शिक्षा कैन नॉट हैपन विदाउट संबंध। व्हाई इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट? फॉर 2-3 रीजंस। वन, वो जो कुछ भी बोल रहा है हो सकता है अपेरेंटली उसका गलत मीनिंग हो, लेकिन अगर आप उस व्यक्ति को जानते होगे ना तो आप उसका सही मीनिंग समझोगे। प्रभुपाद ने बोल दिया आई किक द साइंटिस्ट ऑन देयर फेस बाय माय बूट्स। अब जो व्यक्ति प्रभुपाद को नहीं जानता है वो क्या समझेगा प्रभुपाद के बारे में? बाप रे, इतना घमंडी आदमी कभी नहीं देखा, इतना इतना मतलब ये कैसा? आई विल नेवर रीड प्रभुपाद बुक। एम आई एग्जैगरेटिंग? आप किसी अपने ऑफिस में या जो भी आजकल के मॉडर्न लोगों को प्रभुपाद का ये स्टेटमेंट दिखा दो, दे विल नेवर रीड प्रभुपाद बुक। तो अब क्या? लेकिन अगर आपको पता है प्रभुपाद कौन है तो आप समझोगे यार प्रभुपाद ने किस किस इंटेंट से और किस भावना में बोला है, आउट ऑफ हिज कंप्लीट मर्सी एंड कंपैशन टू द साइंटिस्ट, किस भावना में बोला है। तो क्या जरूरत पड़ गया? टू नो द पर्सन, टू हैव द संबंध विद द पर्सन। तो ये एक कारण है वाई संबंध इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर शिक्षा। दूसरा कारण कि अगर आपको कुछ डाउट आ गया या किसी और ने कुछ और बोल दिया या ये जो बोल रहे हैं आप डाइजेस्ट नहीं कर पा रहे हो, तो आप क्या अपने अंदर रखोगे? नहीं, अब आप इसको पूछोगे। You said like this, how do I understand this? He is saying like that, how do I understand this? Before coming to conclusion, अरे ये तो बेकार है, ये उसका तो लगता है पतन हो गया है, ये तो कुछ और बोल रहा है, you will first approach it। पर वो कब होगा? जब संबंध होगा। Therefore संबंध is so important for शिक्षा। इसलिए there are scope of misunderstandings. Crocodile of different philosophies, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in crocodile of different philosophies. And it's not just about personalism versus impersonalism. Even in personalism, there can be different philosophies. Even in ISKCON, there can be different philosophies. Crocodile of different philosophies. Yes, Prabhu. Maybe one last question and we'll end. Yes, Prabhu.
Connectivity both are important. One is there, the other will be
No. No. One doesn't. I mean, ultimately, if the more one is Krishna conscious, automatically all these things happen. But we are not completely Krishna conscious yet. So we exclusively focus on certain aspects. So let's say one is very much focusing on his 16 rounds, reading, hearing, chanting sadhana very nicely. But when it comes to dealing with devotees, he's not following certain basic principles. Yes, you are right that if one is Krishna conscious, automatically all these things will happen. So there are no two things. If one is Krishna conscious, all divine qualities will be there in him. But since we are not perfectly Krishna conscious, we may tend to focus on one more than the other. So I may want to focus more on my sadhana without understanding the spirit of seva or without understanding the spirit of sadachar. And therefore, it is possible to see devotees who are, when it comes to their own sadhana, they are very, very pakka. But when it comes to dealing with devotees, they are not very good. Or they pick up quarrels, they pick up fights. Or in fights, they don't bend down because they don't understand the other aspect of Krishna consciousness. So in our path, this may happen. But one who is really Krishna conscious, pure devotees, there you will not see this thing. कि ये pure devotee ना सदाचार वाला आदमी है, ये pure devotee साधना वाला आदमी है नहीं, वो साधना वाला भी होगा, सेवा वाला भी होगा, cooperation वाला भी होगा. इसलिए in all Prabhupada disciples you will see these things. कभी-कभी हमको लगता है, अरे ये Prabhupada disciple इस चीज पे ज्यादा फोकस करते हैं, ये Prabhupada disciple इस चीज पे ज्यादा फोकस करते हैं. Again, हमारा संबंध किसके साथ है? एक ही के साथ है, तो हमको उसके बारे में ज्यादा पता है. जब आप किसी दूसरे के साथ भी आप संबंध बनाओगे और उनका जब ज्यादा रीडिंग हियरिंग करोगे ना, आपको पता चलेगा इस पर्सनैलिटी में भी वो सब कुछ है. I was hearing one in last year when this Gopal Krishna Maharaj disappearance one anniversary was celebrated. I was hearing one particular class which we played in the temple for everyone, and how Gopal Krishna Maharaj was emphasizing, the love and warmth in devotees. And how was he emphasizing that anybody who comes to the temple should be seen as a guest of Krishna, right? But if we don't hear these aspects, then we will just associate one disciple of Prabhupada with one thing, one disciple of Prabhupada with ऐसा नहीं होता है. Those who are pure devotees, we will see all of this in their different aspects of their personality. We will see that. पर हम हर एक के बारे में इतना कुछ जानते नहीं है अभी, इसलिए हमको फिर बाहर से एक चीज उसके हाईलाइट होकर दिख जाती है. So yes, one who is Krishna conscious, he will have all these things. But in our journey to become Krishna conscious, we may tend to focus on one thing more than the other. Therefore, it's important for us to hear that sadhana is important, seva is important, sadachar is important, and all that. And
how to say so person is hearing about is others are getting destroyed. So it will be connected with
prayeshu abhadreshu. Almost. Read the translation. Almost all anarthas go. What remains? False ego. False ego goes by serving. False ego is the root of quarrels. Because when one is reading, hearing Bhagavatam more and more and more, अरे पूरा सेट है इधर, सारे श्लोक सारा कुछ, तो क्या आ सकता है? False ego. इसलिए नष्ट प्रायेषु अभद्रेषु. Almost all anarthas. False ego may be there. False ego will go only when we render service to person Bhagavat. Therefore, person Bhagavat is also very, very important in book Bhagavat. Hare Krishna. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Granthārāja Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Very busy, but everybody has to rush.
Today I was determined. वैसे SH 740 पे शुरू करके 840 पे खत्म कर दिया था. Question answer.
This is going to be like to come Thomas time taking care of everyone. So many devotees asking questions. Last week you were telling me you got get tired going for so busy actually.
Then next time when we met, he was looking at my hand.
So let us thank you for this valuable time. You so
without